This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
This episode is going to feel a little bit different than most, and that doesn't mean that we're not going to bring you Western Canada's best political insights and most informed political commentary. In fact, that's coming up in like 15, 20 minutes. Nick Taylor-Vaisey is, as part of his cross-Canada tour as the Ottawa bureau chief for Politico, is touched down in Alberta. He drove through the night up the QE2 from Calgary to Alberta's capital city of Edmonton, and he'll be joining me live in the Real Talk studio in just a moment. Kind of interesting to have some Ontario eyes on Battleground, Alberta, and the tightest races there. Nick's going to feature some. He was accompanying some candidates, watching them knock on doors, hearing what everyday Albertans were talking about as their key election issues in the battleground ridings, in the ones that may not but could swap. Could Mark Carney's Liberals win more in Alberta than they're used to? Will the Conservatives build on their already dominant lead in the seats on the prairies? That's coming up. But something pretty personal out of the gates today, as our family had a huge scare. If you follow my wife, Kari, on Instagram, you already know what happened in the North Saskatchewan River yesterday. And this is ultimately a good news story, but it comes with a warning. That in 30 seconds. First, we want to let you know that this episode is happening with the presenting sponsorship of Alberta's top online real estate school. That's Rello at rello.ca, where better real estate training starts. If you're looking at folks you know that are working in real estate, unlimited earning potential, they're not stapled to a cubicle, and you're starting to think, gosh, I might be pretty good at that. Rello is your best bet to get started. Real estate learning online for the bold and ambitious. They're going to get you set to write your exam. They're going to get you set up with your license, and then, of course, kickstart your real estate career on the right foot. You can learn more about the different courses available, including the Alberta Commercial and Residential Real Estate Bundles, on their website. That's rello.ca. And if you're signing up for those bundles, make sure you keep that promo code in mind. That's Ryan100, all one word, Ryan100. It'll knock $100 off both of those bundles when you get started today at rello.ca. So we've just wrapped our episode, our most recent one, on the Tuesday morning, and my phone rings, and it's my wife. And like any intelligent husband, I immediately answered the phone, but I knew right away, as soon as I picked up, that this call was different. There was a lot of emotion in my wife Kari's voice, and I'm grateful that she is joining us in studio today, alongside someone who's become pretty important to our family in the last 24 hours, and that's Edmonton Fire Rescue's District Chief Brian Williams. So to both of you, welcome to the show. Chief, you didn't think you'd be doing an interview on Real Talk 24 hours ago.
Oh, no, not at all. No, not. Got a face for radio.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah.
And I don't think, Kari, that you expected that you'd be here either, but what a scare. For people that haven't seen your Instagram stories, take us into what went down about 24 hours ago.
Yeah, well, every morning, as you know, Monroe and I go to the River Valley most mornings. How lucky are we as Edmontonians to have the River Valley to take our dogs to and be right in the beautiful nature right in the morning. And it had just rained and it smelled so wonderful out. And I was just thinking, I'm like, this is just such a beautiful walk. We go through the trails. And Monroe is an amazing dog. She's incredibly well trained, has typically really excellent recall. I have complete trust in her when we go down on the trails. She kind of does her thing. We walk together. It's a beautiful time.
We've been doing it for years.
For years we've been going down, and it's just, we know those trails like the back of our hand. And anyway, so we're walking along the river, and I know this time at the river is dangerous, and it's always in the back of my mind. I'm like, she's really good. Although I want to be aware, I'm confident that she's not going to take off. I have that much confidence in her abilities and her training that she's going to stick with me. So we were walking along the river, and then I turned left to go back into the trails and stopped myself, which now I wish I didn't, and thought, you know what, let's go up a little bit further, take this walk a little bit longer, which meant walking along the river for a short distance. Well, as soon as we turned around, started walking, some ducks landed on the river, and she took off. And it's quite steep down in that area. And I called her, and I was just expecting that she would immediately listen to me and come back. And she didn't. She kept going. And my heart went in my throat a little bit, but I tried to stay calm. I called her again, and nope, she went right out onto the ice and jumped into the water and went after the ducks. I'm calling her, nothing. And then she turns around and realizes that she's not going to be able to get back up onto the ice, because through the center of the river, it's flowing, but still along the shoreline, there's still huge ice patches. I immediately called 911. I didn't even hesitate. And honestly, what came to my mind, there have been some tragic situations right in that area before. And that popped into my mind right away. And I'm like, I'm not having this happen to us. Called 911 with a slight bit of guilt. I'm like, I don't want to bug them, was my first thought. I don't want to bug them with this. They have bigger things to tend to, but what if I don't? And time is of the essence. Called 911, and they were just absolutely wonderful on the phone, keeping me calm, walking me through, trying to find out exactly where I was, because Edmonton's River Valley, as you know, is vast. Like, where are you? Try to explain where you are. And then as the fire crews were making their way there, I'm kind of trying my hardest. I'm not typically a chill person. I'm a worrier. I have anxiety. I was trying to just remain calm for her, because I wanted her to remain calm. I knew if she started to panic, that could be bad news.
So she's kind of like, she's got her like front paws up on the ice, and the river, I wouldn't say the river's not rushing, but it's moving.
Oh, it's moving fast.
It's moving underneath her, and she's trying to basically pull herself up onto the ice to avoid getting swept underneath the ice, at which point it would obviously be game over. Yeah,
and she's yelping and crying, and I'm talking to her, and then I start to go down a little bit, because I see a spot kind of off in the distance. I'm like, maybe if I can coax her down here, she can climb up and get herself out. At no point was I going to go in the river. Like, that was, I knew right away. And I know that's your first instinct as a dog owner. You're like, I just want to go save my baby. But you can't do that. So I was trying to coax her down the other way. I ended up kind of slipping in the mud. I'm covered in mud, trying to hold the phone, talk to emergency crews. They're keeping me calm. I'm sort of yelling to the other crews that are coming down the path so they can like locate where I am. And so she's gripping onto the ice, and she would take, I don't know what her, frame of mind was, but she would take like little breaks and kind of swim around in circles and then come back up to the ice and put her paws.
Almost like resetting.
Yeah, or I didn't know, right? Like, I didn't know.
And of course you're thinking, and now I think many of us are thinking about Rob White, may he rest in peace. Yeah. This was 4 years ago. This guy, a good Samaritan, I'll reference here the Edmonton Journal's reporting on this, but he became a household name for tragic reasons when Rob went into the river in a circumstance very similar to this, in a very similar location to this.
Yeah, just down the trail.
Trying to actually rescue, as I understand it, a complete stranger's dog, and unfortunately paid for it with his life. Chief, this isn't like firefighters showing up to rescue a cat in a tree. When something like this happens, this is serious business for all involved.
Yeah, I was mentioning to Kari yesterday in our short drive back from the river. This is one of the most dangerous things that we do, and that includes firefighting. The river is a very unpredictable, moving. It's very fast. It's very powerful for anybody that's ever been in there. We do extensive training summer and winter. It's terrifying for our crews, and so it's something to be really respected at all times.
Yeah, so she finally, ultimately at the end of the day, she found a way to get out. Like you were saying, as the crews were literally walking up. You guys had a big inflatable boat. Is that what you show up with?
Yeah, we call them RDCs, or rapid deployment crafts. Makes it very easy, because obviously we can't use our jet boat because of the ice flow. So we have the ability to get on the water and circumnavigate ice flows at certain points. But when it gets too dangerous, we can't even go in there.
Like, there's times where you got to say, I'm sorry, we're not sending our guys in there.
Yes, yeah. That's true.
How common are river calls, river rescues like these?
Well, we get them over 100 per year. And just recently, I can give you some stats. Since January 1, we've done 44. Wow. Since March 1st, we've done 30. And in the past week, we've done 12.
12 in the past week.
Is that all dogs, or is that?
That's people and pets.
People and pets.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So it's a really, really difficult time for our crews. It becomes very worrisome for many of our staff.
I know that this was like you did the right thing in calling 911 right away, because everybody says that seconds count. But were you a little bit like? Were you feeling a little bit embarrassed? Were you feeling self-conscious? Did you like sort of think
initially
twice before calling?
Well, right away I was, that thought crossed my mind, but I was like, I don't care. she's my baby, and I'm gonna, if I'm making a mistake by calling 911, if this isn't the right move, then I'm really sorry and I will profusely apologize. But right now I care about saving my dog. So I'm gonna do everything that I can to make that happen. In the time where they were coming, still coming down, and I had time to sort of process, the next thought was like, oh my gosh, like now I'm putting them in danger. Like, I just hope that everything is going to work out. And like, that definitely crossed my mind about, and then after you explaining to me about how dangerous it is for your crews, I was just so thankful that they didn't end up having to go in. So Monroe's gripping onto the side. They're almost there. And then I don't know what clicked in her, but all of a sudden she started to swim away over to this area where there was sort of a little break in the ice, like a little path in between two big chunks of ice. My heart was in my throat because I'm like, this could be her chance to get out, but also she could slip right under. Like in 1 second, she could just slip right under the ice. She managed to prop herself up onto the one ice chunk and then used her back legs and kind of swung them around to the other chunk and then got up onto the ice. Then my next thought is, please hold her. Like, please, don't fall through. She managed to run up the bank and came out, and she was just, as you can imagine, in complete distress. And then that's when we, connected with the rest of the crew and everything was okay.
Our Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power. I want to make sure that we get all the shouts out to Edmonton Fire Rescue as possible. But there's a lot of people here. Van Fashion says fire department was on the news like earlier this week saying keep yourself and your dogs away from the river. I know this is kind of a campaign that you and Edmonton Fire Rescue Services, fire departments across the country and in northern climates, you undertake this campaign every year right around this time, and I guess maybe the message just doesn't always resonate until you manage to help save the life of a media couple's lab.
Well, you're right. It's something that we really want to message, and in this time of year, it is extremely dangerous. But I really want to say something. Kari did a fantastic job. From our communications crews and our dispatchers, they actually asked me to say something about Kari's calm demeanor. She says she's not calm.
Wow.
She was amazing. She was amazing.
Thank you.
If it wasn't for her ability to be calm and very clear in communications, because I think that's part of your profession, you're very good communicators, you were able to communicate your location, what the situation was to our dispatchers. God bless our dispatchers. And they gave me the opportunity to give the emergency locate. Kari accepted the text. I was able to find her within about 150 meters, which brought our crews closer. So the rescue was very expedited because of Kari's calmness and her communication. So good on her. For anybody else, bring your phones, learn from Kari. She did a great job, Ryan. So
I'm proud of you too. I said that to you, but I think coming from Chief, I hope that means a little bit more.
That means a lot. And can I just say too, the compassion that you had, I'm going to get emotional, and your team had from the second that they showed up meant the world to me, because there wasn't once where you guys were like, what were you thinking? There was no, you guys were so compassionate and caring to both of us, and you picking Monroe and I up and putting us in your vehicle and warming up the seats, and she was filthy. I'm like, I'm sorry about your seats. And taking the time to have that conversation with me, like in that moment, just meant the world to me, that you had such compassion and gentle nature and care. Like, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Obviously, I'm a dog lover. They are part of our families. They're not just pets for anybody that is listening. The Fire Rescue Service believes your animals are your family. So we will do anything that we can to mitigate those emergencies for your pets. All of our crews, I'm going to little shout out to Station 12 and Andrew Christian and his crews. Great job. Dave Harris out of Station 22, Oliver. Your crew is fantastic. And again, our dispatchers, Sean Jennett, his crew on Ladder 22. Those guys, they made the rescue. They did the tough work. I had the fortunate ability to have a smaller vehicle and keep some warmth for Kari and Monroe, which I I was very happy to do.
Everybody does their part. Monroe's with us in studio, but she's an independent girly. As this is we've kind of been reiterating this. I saw one comment in here. Someone said those dastardly ducks.
No.
Right.
But she sure we could tell that when you two connected, Monroe, I'm talking, and you, Chief, in the green room. She knows that there's something there. Cactus Sheriff in our live chat says first responders, some of the most underappreciated people in society. Amazing people doing often brutal jobs, and that's the truth for sure. And many others just saying, listen, like a lot of people have dogs here. 80s Fanify says I would be an absolute mess. Others are saying, appreciate this from Kathy, who says thanks, Kari and Chief, for sharing the story. Says it's a really good reminder for everybody that sometimes, as hard as you try, things happen. They say I'm glad that Monroe is okay. I'm going to bring something up that you probably don't want me to bring up,
awesome.
but somebody brought to our attention. There's this Facebook group, Chief. Maybe you guys know about it. There's a Facebook group where people listen to like scanners, police and rescue scanners. That used to be part of our job when we were in newsrooms 25 years ago, and it just basically said there was a post that said Edmonton Fire Rescue is on scene at Laurier Dog Park, Buena Vista Dog Park. A dog had fallen through the ice, and Edmonton Fire Rescue is on scene, and there's like 90 comments. They're ruthless, and I wanted to address it because it doesn't say like the Jesperson family dog went through the ice, but still, comments like these stupid assholes, send these people the bill. These people are the worst kind of dog owners. These people give dog owners the worst name. Why are people so stupid? They can't keep their dog on a leash. And this is the kind of talk show where I love to hit that kind of stuff head on.
Yeah, first of all, I don't put too much merit into a group of people that listen to police scanners for a living. And then go on a Facebook group and talk about it. But I will say it is easy to stand there and judge when you don't have any context to the situation. I will say the message of like, make sure your dog's trained, all that kind of stuff. But like, this is a situation where we have a well-trained dog. So I feel like this is, for all the people with well-trained dogs who are like, my dog will be fine. This is more for us, right? Like, of course we want to be responsible dog owners. And if your dog does not have good recall, don't bring them down to the river, or don't even take them to the dog park, quite frankly. Like, I get that. And I consider us to be really good dog owners.
Well, Monroe's actually the type of dog where people stop us and say, like, who trained your dog? Like, they're like, she's remarkably well-trained. It sort of reminds me of another scenario where you see people and everybody, you never think it's going to be you until it's you. But we all know people that, like, walk their dogs off leash on sidewalks downtown because the dog never runs away. But like, what if there's a rabbit, or what if the dog does run away? And this was one of those circumstances. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. I mean, like it could just literally happen to anybody. And I think it's easy to judge, but just to remember that.
I appreciate the empathy that people extend, and I also appreciate the education that you're able to do here, Chief. And also, Kari, I think you deserve credit for it as well, putting it out on your social platforms, in particular at Kari Skelton on Instagram, where you like poured your heart out. You were emotional in front of everybody.
Well, I promised Brian yesterday. I would. Because he said, would you mind passing the message to your friends? I said, well, Brian, I actually am a content creator and I can put this on my social media. We can reach a lot of people. So I'm just grateful for the outcome. Obviously, I'm grateful for, the fire and rescue's efforts. And I'm just grateful that this is kind of starting this, continuing this conversation and giving it the light that it deserves. So, who knows how many dogs maybe we're saving or people we're saving. So it's the good to come out of it.
What are the stories? I just have to ask you before we let you. And by the way, Chief, coming in on a day off, we sure appreciate that. I want to recognize that too. Coming in on a day off.
Actually, I'm on shift right now, so they give me some time to come in.
Okay.
And you know what? This is a great opportunity for me, Ryan and Kari. Thank you for everything you guys have done. We cannot reach the amount of people that you folks reach just because of your podcast, because of Kari's Instagram and everything else she's done. We cannot. I have wanted to do this for many, many years, and thank God this turned out as well as it did, because now we get to message people. And for people that think that you are a bad dog owner, well, if everybody was a perfect parent or a perfect person, we wouldn't need emergency departments, we wouldn't need police, we wouldn't need fire departments. It would be a perfect world. But we don't live in a perfect world. We're human beings. We make mistakes. That's what we're here for. And I just want everybody to know, like, I don't care what it is. We're there for you, for the citizens of Edmonton, whether it's a pet, a child. We're here for you. So please, no one ever hesitate. And Kari, I understand where you're at, but just know that we're there for you.
Well, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. So when is it, just while we have you here, like let's do like a quick 30-second
Yeah.
educational bit.
Okay.
Like when is it safe to get on the river? Like now is the most dangerous time because obviously the ice is unpredictable, it's sketchy, it's breaking off, it's melting in spots, it's thinner than people think.
It is moving fast right now.
Yeah. So how do people know with confidence? Because I know there's going to be a lot of people that are paying close attention to this. A lot of people out walking their dogs, out running on trails, love to get their feet wet a little bit.
Yeah. Right now, I would say don't even go near the shore. Even if you think it's safe, don't go near it. If you have your pet on a leash at all times. Don't trust any storm lakes, ponds, anything like that. That is so unpredictable. You don't have no idea if that ice is going to give way, like Kari was mentioning about, Monroe. Like, please, I hope you don't fall through the ice. Well, I've been out there training, and I've been out there on real calls, and we're prepared to the best of our ability, and we still have unpredictable things that we fall through the ice, and it's terrifying, and that's in a dry suit. So I would say don't go near it. Whether it's children, pets, whatever, don't even go near. Don't trust it at all. Don't walk on it. Don't go near it. Just stay on the trail.
You know the name Lauren Corbett, hey?
Yeah, I know Lauren very well. He's one of the reasons I joined this department.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, he's one of our favorite live chatters. He joins us every morning, and he just says, "Well said, Chief."
Yeah, Lauren Corbett. I was a paramedic, and Lauren was on the fire truck out of Station 12.
Yeah.
And we went to a very, very bad call, and Lauren asked me, says, "Why would you not be a firefighter? You're a firefighter."
Wow.
Yeah, so he's the reason. Him and Al Harris.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're giving me chills right now.
33 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this. That's District Chief Brian Williams, representing, of course, many, many proud and brave men and women at Edmonton Fire Rescue Services, and the love of my life, the dog mom to Monroe. You're wearing your dog mom hat for everybody listening on the podcast. Yep. I'm wearing my Salgado Fenwick Dog Lovers T-shirt.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it's just a really it's been an emotional 24 hours for us. Look at this girlie walking around behind me here in the studio. Our beautiful Monroe, 6-year-old lab who just celebrated her birthday like 3 days before this all went down. So grateful to still have her here. Kari Skelton, you can follow her on Instagram to see more. Thanks for doing this.
Oh,
Thanks for having us.
All right. We'll talk politics, Real Talkers, like we promised in just a second. Nick Taylor-Vaisey from Politico in the house. First, check this out at theranchgolf.com. It is my absolute pleasure to let you know that the ranch has set opening day. That's right. Opening day at the ranch is coming up on the 15th of April. What? You're going, what? Yeah, that's right. The 15th of April. That's next Tuesday. They are wide open on the early side of average. So says Murray McCord out at the ranch. I said, pal, it seems like you guys are opening early. This is very exciting for a guy like me. He says, yeah, it's on the early side of average, which means that things are looking good for golf at Alberta's best public course. This is where I play golf. I call it my home course. And of course, it's where we take the Real Talk Golf Classic every single year. This year, that's going to be Thursday, the 19th of June, the 4th annual Real Talk Golf Classic in support of the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. The reason we go to the ranch is because nobody does more tournaments than the ranch. They do like 120 tournaments a year, which means they are absolutely dialed in on this stuff. You can learn more about what it's like to work with their team. They'll handle, honestly, everything for you. Get that ball rolling today. If you're in charge of your company's golf tournament, at theranchgolf.com. California Closets, the absolute best in the business for custom closets and storage solutions for the entire home. And that includes garages. That includes third bedrooms that are doubling as, guest rooms, home offices. Maybe one of those Murphy beds is the solution for you. Mudrooms, boot rooms, and of course the dream walk-in closets. Best part about California Closets right now, the fact that they're Canadian owned and operated. They do all their manufacturing in Alberta. This is a family-owned company, has been since inception. You can request your free consultation today at californiaclosets.ca. Athabasca University, Canada's open university with world-class accredited online degrees and courses designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. That means if you're looking at maybe going back getting a program or a course accreditation, we just did a great conversation, a segment with them on neurodiversity in the workplace. Maybe you work in HR, something like that intrigues you, or maybe you're going to go chase that MBA you've always dreamed about. You don't have to wait for the fall. You don't have to wait for the spring. It's go time anytime because you're plotting your own course at athabascau.ca. And a quick shout out to our friends at Friesen Brothers, celebrating 70 years, still family owned here in 2025 with 16 different locations across the province. It's been a while since you visited Friesen Brothers. You owe it to yourself. Maybe circle the first of every month on your calendar. That's when they knock 15% off grocery purchases, $75 or more. And they're now taking orders for their Easter dinner box. It's competitively priced. They do all the work so you can relax with your family and friends. You can order ahead of time, pick up in store. Find out all the details at friesen.com.
Go time anytime. That's how I live my life, right?
Go time anytime. Hey, thanks for you get just absolutely blindsided with things from time to time.
What?
In this job working with me, I feel like every once in a while.
No, it's a podcast. Everything's planned months ahead. We're totally prepared.
But like we'll get a phone call and it just kind of changes the day. And yesterday I took that call at like 10 o'clock or whatever it was, 10:15 in the morning. And you're kind of looking at me and I'm looking at you. And I was like, I think we just as a family dodged a big bullet on the river. I couldn't, like everyone's saying in the chat, you never think it's going to happen to you till it happens to you.
Yeah, if you have a dog and you're listening to that story, like I have a very small, like a 5-pound Chihuahua, it would have been a totally different story. Like, I don't even, I'm getting choked up thinking about it, but she would have been gone, right? So this just listening to that story, and then obviously hearing about the gentleman who passed away, like that is just. Often. To be swept under the ice, and I don't even want to start talking about it, but it's just it was a great reminder here to have the chief on in the spring when the ice starts thawing, to just keep your distance until it's fully thawed, right?
100%. Yeah, that's Rob White again, and we just think of him and his family. Just such a sad story. Carrie and I were thinking about our other dog. We said goodbye to him in July. Unfortunately, he passed away. But Moses, our beautiful boxer, and boxers, as magnificent as they are lousy swimmers. Like they may be among the worst swimmers of all the dogs. Apologies, they weren't bred to swim, but it's just a fact. And Moses is the type of dog that would have gone after ducks.
Yeah.
Moses is not, and for these exact reasons. Anybody that knows us, Moses was never at the off-leash area. Moses was always walked on leash or in areas. But we were thinking yesterday, and I kind of got a chill saying it to Kari. Had it been Moses that went in, I mean, Monroe's a lab in her prime. Yeah. She's like a very athletic dog.
Great swimmers.
Moses would have not been able to hang on to an ice floe for 15 minutes.
No, and it's, you don't have to make excuses. Like, our dog is super well trained. Every time we take her around other dogs to a dog park, we've taken her to dog hangouts or whatever. She is the quiet, sit in the corner, never barks, whatever. But you get her out in a situation like every now and then where she just sees another type of animal she hasn't seen, a bird, a squirrel, whatever. And we've been in a park or whatever. And you'd leash them to the park, and then you take them off. You kind of look around. Okay, no dogs. You can see, a mile away. Okay, let her off. And I remember she saw a bird and she just took off.
Yeah.
Like, kind of animal instinct takes over.
Totally.
I don't think you can train it out of them, right? So.
Yeah, 100%. Chief back in the chat. Hey, Lauren just says Kari did so well. It's the interaction of caller and dispatch that's successful. I've always wondered what it's like to work as a 911 dispatcher. Like, you talk about, we get calls that throw our day sideways. Like, they never know the call they're going to get. Most times, every caller dialing in is, or in many circumstances, having the worst day of their life. And they're just realizing it. So a shout out to the dispatchers in this and many other scenarios. And I see Tara Lynn in the chat right now, says, what a great start to the day. You can't get more local than this story. Wonderful of Chief to come in this morning. We appreciate the Edmonton Fire Rescue media team for making that happen. And then Tara Lynn's wondering, does Chief have to pay the media tax? Now, he definitely does. And I would imagine he's probably going to be, I think it's an ice cream cake these days. I think that's what the tax is. So I wonder what haul he'd be dropping that off. Probably 12 or 22 is my guess.
Les in the chat says we should do a show on service dogs. Have you ever, I watched a documentary on YouTube. I wish there was one on Netflix, because I was like, this should be on Netflix. Like, the life they lead, like the life of service from pretty much the time they become old enough to be trained, and then they're just incredible animals. So yeah, maybe we should have if we had a dog round table. Oh my!
If we can do it, I'm thinking of the dogs playing poker thing, and we could do it on Real Talk.
You could get them to answer questions.
This will be our next billboard. Nick Taylor-Vaisey, in his professional life, is the Ottawa bureau chief at Politico. Are you a dog guy?
I am a dog guy. I grew up with dogs. Yeah, including a boxer.
You grew up with a boxer.
I did, yeah, Brindle Boxer. Yeah,
They're a very special breed, aren't they?
They are.
Lousy swimmers.
Gucci was her name, and at the cottage, she struggled. She struggled to swim.
Yeah, kind of a wild story. And I bet that when you and I coordinated every Wednesday, you'd be on the show through the election campaign, including this one. When you would be in Alberta, you didn't think you'd be bumped half an hour for a dog story. But I think this is the type of thing where it's one of those stories where you go, it'll land with just about anybody. People can find some way how this story would relate to them.
I mean, dogs are family, right? It's simple as that. Like, they just are.
Yeah.
They just are. They're core to who we all are. If you're a dog person, they're core to who you are.
You woke up early for us to be here. We sure appreciate that.
Sure.
An 11th hour, literal, almost traveling through the night up the QE2 from Calgary to Alberta's capital city. Relatively unfamiliar territory for you as an Ottawa correspondent, but talk to us about your time in Alberta thus far covering the federal election campaigns.
Yeah, I was in Calgary for a couple of days, and I stayed here last night, and I heard early this week that Mark Carney, the Liberal leader, was going to be in Calgary. So I said, well, I have to stay for that. I can't come all the way to Calgary and then skip town before he makes his speech, because I hadn't seen one of his rallies yet. I'd seen one of Pierre Poilievre's, but I hadn't seen one of Mark Carney's.
You talked to us right after the Poilievre rally you attended in Hamilton.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, and that was, the rock star treatment, all the long lineups, the traffic jam on the way to the...
You saw his Nisku rally the other day here, just south of Edmonton. They're saying 12 to 15,000 people. Stephen Harper making a cameo appearance.
There was 4 times the size of the one that I saw, and the one I saw was pretty big, right?
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 times the size. So yeah, I mean, they're huge, and Carney's was not that big. It was, I think the capacity of it was in the Red and White Club by the stadium in Calgary.
Yeah.
900 people or so, but it was energy, I think, relatively speaking, for Liberals in Calgary. I think they were pumped that in the third week of a federal campaign, they had a Liberal leader in town. They're feeling pretty good about a few ridings there. You wrote about a couple of them for us in our newsletter last week, and so it was 900 people. And Mark Carney doesn't have quite the showmanship of Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, I would say not even close.
Yeah, I'm understanding it slightly, but they were happy to have him there for sure, and he did. I think he did his job.
It's been interesting, like some of the messaging, and I'm always fascinated by this. The National was pointing out just the other night that Jagmeet Singh has changed messaging from an NDP government, which may have been a couple elections ago, to like the role that the NDP can play, to now basically, and these are my words, not Jagmeet's, but basically, voters, please prevent us from being completely wiped off the face of the earth. Like, that's kind of his messaging. Send as many New Democrats to Ottawa as possible. The Liberal campaign is also changing its messaging, as far as I can tell, a little bit in Alberta, where, like you said earlier, it's typically been. I wouldn't say they don't put in a good effort. That would take too much away from the volunteers and the people that work really hard. But everybody always kind of looked at it like, if the Liberals won 4 seats in Alberta out of 37 this election, that'd be amazing. They're starting to think a little bit bigger now. I mean, they're not talking about winning the province, but Liberals are starting to go, can we win 6 or 7 or 8?
Yeah, they're looking at Calgary and Edmonton. And I walked around Calgary Confederation yesterday with Corey Hogan, the replacement candidate.
Yes.
Not to Corey Hogan's a great guy.
It's a fact.
He's a fellow podcaster.
Yeah.
But he's come in only a week as candidate, and still is going door to door. I walked around with him, and he said to me, part of his mission here, and this is no secret, is that the Liberal campaign in that riding wants to siphon off NDP votes from the local NDP candidate, because there's so much provincial NDP support that translates federally to the Liberals. And that's more and more as everyone who knows your show and who lives here knows, the 2015 sort of changed the game in Alberta. And,
sure.
And so this is 10 years later, but they're still hoping that they can bank on some of that core provincial orange support in the core of both cities, but particularly Calgary, and particularly Calgary Confederation.
Calgary Confederation, an interesting riding. Corey joined us on the show. For those of you that didn't catch it, you can find it on our podcast and YouTube archives. We've known Corey for a long time. He's on our editorial board for Real Talk, so we disclose that, obviously. Sure. I mean, I have a personal relationship with him. He's not going up against a ringer, but he's going up against someone with real name recognition.
Absolutely,
in Jeremy Nixon, brother of. It probably drives him crazy. My second sentence is always brother of Jason Nixon. Jeremy Nixon himself, a former UCP MLA. It's not the riding he wanted to run in, but it's where he's at after losing a prior nomination. you were at the doors, I mean, or at least observing the conversations at the doors. What sense were you getting about where every individual is at?
Yeah, well, I'll start answering that answer by talking about a different riding, Calgary McKnight, where George Chahal is running.
Right.
The incumbent
Liberal.
And city councillor. Name recognition for George is off the charts in that part of Calgary. Conservatives in that city are pretty much banking on him being the overwhelming favorite in that corner of town.
Really?
And so if he loses, it's because campaign dynamics have probably changed significantly. But they think, yeah, let's not worry too much about that. He might have that one locked down. The Chahals in Calgary are a force. They raise a lot of money, and they know how to get things done in politics. So there's that. But then in Confederation, it feels more like you're on kind of the leading edge of this liberal-conservative battle in Alberta. And Kari, going to the doors, is hearing from people who are saying a few things. One, yeah, okay, I'll take a sign, but my neighbors are probably going to kick it down. Or someone else who said, well, I'm thinking about voting Liberal for the first time in my life. But also it was a little bit like, not sure though. And I think Mark Carney has a lot of, has a huge, he's a big factor in that potential switch. And then there are others who just say, but this is Calgary Confederation. We vote Conservative. This is how. So he's up against that reflexive conservatism that you don't see in northeastern Calgary to the same extent, where Chahal has really established that beachhead. And so at the doors, there's that sense that if the Liberals want to gain here, and if they do win that riding, it probably means they're going to win a massive majority, right? If they win 3-4 seats in Calgary, or even 2 at this point, then that probably means they're doing quite well nationally.
Well, especially if you look at just where the conversation was at and what everybody was musing about. Like, I mean, I know a year is an eternity in politics, but people were talking about like getting the table just absolutely cleared. Like you wouldn't have a shot as a Trudeau Liberal incumbent on the prairies in the province of Alberta. Of note, I don't know if you know the name Darren Markland. He's known across the country. He's a physician at the Royal Alexandra Hospital. Really, really remarkable guy. He's got a hell of a social media following at Dr. Dagley. I appreciated this post from him on X yesterday. I really like my neighbors, so I'm trying not to look at the political signage they're putting up right now. One of his followers says, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I guess it helps to know who and who not to have coffee with. And I loved his response. He says, I share coffee with anyone. I'm hoping that's a step in the right direction. As soon as I saw that, I said, I'm reading that on the show because that's the spirit of it. But isn't it true? I even experience it when I'm going through my neighborhood and I see a lawn sign and I go, really? You guys? Huh? And it goes in both directions.
Absolutely.
It goes in a number of different directions.
Yeah.
Putting a lawn sign out is actually a really big deal.
Yeah, well, and it's lawn signs play a different role in the mind of ask 100 campaigners, and they'll give you 100 different versions of why signs matter. And some say, well, we're winning the sign war. We have more signs. That's a sign of more support or momentum or whatever the case may be. But I think also I've talked to a couple people around here just since I've been here in Alberta, and they say, signs are more personal. They're more of a neighbor by neighbor, door by door indication, like you're talking about. So it's not if you have 4,000 signs and the other candidate has 3,500 that you're that far ahead, because who knows what they actually convert into. But it's a neighborhood indicator to say this is me, and I'm willing to say this, not just this is who I'm voting for, but I'm willing to share with you and everyone who drives by, everyone who knows I live here, that I'm voting Liberal or NDP or Conservative.
And long after the election, people remember who had which lawn signs out.
Oh, yeah.
People remember, and it's a big deal. This is me being a nerd and a geek following elections, but I would also remind Real Talkers, I think this audience, Politico's audience as well, already does this, but pay attention to and differentiate in your own mind which signs are on private property and which signs are on public property. Because it's possible to, quote, win the sign war by polluting boulevards. And there is strategy there. But by polluting boulevards with dozens or hundreds of signs. But once you get them onto like the neighborhood doctor or the school principal or the block captain or something like that, the swimming coach, those ones, I think, go a really long way.
I remember my dad, back in Scarborough, where I grew up in Ontario, he used to do some municipal campaigns, and he would go into detail with me about sign strategy. And he would say, you can get a big corner of a main street, then that's huge for visibility, and it's a bit of a bonus if it maybe blocks out an opponent's sign that's smaller and a couple doors away.
Ruthless.
So you're not, he's not blocking it intentionally, but there's a little bit of a side benefit, and there's so much strategy that goes into that stuff. But of course, he would also say the jackpot is getting a sign on a lawn, not a sign on a corner, as much as that plays into a little bit of a tit for tat, because you're always competing with each other there. I think it's more fun for the campaigners than anyone else.
Yeah.
But the lawn signs that lay that claim, that's the jackpot.
It's a huge deal. Yeah. We're talking to Nick Taylor-Vaisey. He's the Ottawa bureau chief at Politico.com in our live chat powered by Park Power. Get exclusive rates on internet, electricity, and natural gas by checking out parkpower.ca/realtalk. Don says it's funny how the Liberals can switch course by 180 degrees. and everybody goes, oh, well. Meanwhile, the Conservatives switch tack by 2 degrees, and it's like, do you have no principles? That from Don. James says the only reason Poilievre is even campaigning in Alberta is because every single riding is no longer a sure thing. What do you think? You'd be hard-pressed to say Pierre Poilievre's feeling insecure if you watched him at that Nisku rally. But it all comes back to the question, do rallies actually matter?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's one of the defining questions of the campaign. Not the ballot question, but the analysis question is how much do these rallies matter? And there's a fun little side debate. Poilievre doing that in Edmonton, was that playing defense or was that strutting a little bit because he knows he can get 10,000 plus people to come to a big warehouse near the airport and then have Stephen Harper just supercharge it?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the answer is to that. Well, I mean, we'll find out on election day how many ridings in Edmonton the Conservatives lose. They definitely are fighting in a few of them, like more than even in Calgary. But there's an equally plausible argument that was just a flex. And Poilievre loves these rallies. He keeps mentioning the crowd size to reporters. He's done that multiple times now. I think he's really proud of the fact that he can pack that place.
Well, Johnny and I were talking about this. We talked to Max Fawcett from National Observer a while ago about this too. And Poilievre talking about the crowd sizes and how it just appears to be kind of, in a way, to be honest with you, playing into the Liberals' hands with that attack ad that we saw. He's mimicking everything that 47 is saying.
Yeah, I don't think the smugness, I mean, the rally size does give you points, but
Sure.
I don't think the smugness, like, just own it. You know what I mean? A wise man once told me, hey, when you have a big success, just walk out there tall, own it, but
Act
don't
like you've been there.
but don't boast about it, right? You don't have to tell us. If you've got 15,000 people there, we can tell. Just little humbleness would go a long way.
Yeah, Greg's in our live chat. He says the rally was in red Edmonton. That from Greg. Not really. I mean, it was in Nisku, and like we pointed out, I mean, MPs in that area. I mean, I think of my good friend Mike Lake. He wins by almost record-setting margins as a Conservative. Like Leduc, Beaumont, Nisku, that is Conservative as it gets. And I don't know if you call it red Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton's actually sent 2 NDP MPs to Ottawa. I know that are both fighting to keep their jobs, Blake Desjardins and Heather McPherson. And then, of course, you had Randy Boissonnault, who, didn't run again. I think I would almost say just for obvious reasons. I don't think we need to get into it on this show, but I don't think that anything's a guarantee for any party in Edmonton right now. It feels like there are a number of Edmonton ridings that could be real horse races, and I wonder if you got that sense. I mean, you're highlighting a couple for us: Calgary McKnight, Calgary Confederation. But at that Carney rally at the Red and White Club, although it was maybe 1/15 of the size of the Poilievre rally up the highway, did you get a sense that the Liberals think that maybe actually Calgary could deliver for them this election for real?
I mean, I think they're bullish.
What are they going to say?
Yeah, they're amped up in that room. Again, we'll find out in the end.
I'll have to see it to believe it.
What was fantasy and what wasn't, right? And that's there's so many elections where there are these potential breakthroughs, whether you're talking about the NDP, the Liberals, or the Conservatives, that don't pan out, and it's based on vibes, and sometimes the vibes are not what they appear to be. So we'll see. I think fair to say there's a couple of dogfights in Calgary, and there's a couple more in Edmonton, and that's why I wanted to make sure in this campaign to come to both places, because I think both are just so dynamic. This is obvious to people you and everyone but we have to sort of sometimes spoon feed it, I think, a little bit to our Ontario readers and our American readers who are increasingly curious about Canada. But Alberta contains multitudes, and so to actually experience a Conservative riding, a Liberal riding, a Liberal Conservative fight, and then also an NDP stronghold like here in Edmonton, Strathcona, helps demonstrate the fact that Albertans are all kinds of people. Like Calgary, northeastern Calgary is different from central Calgary.
Sure.
Suburban Edmonton is different from the core, just
Big
like every
time.
city. And just like Vancouver, just like Montreal, just like Toronto, which of course hoover up most of the coverage and have more seats in these campaigns. But we got to make an effort to come out here to explain this part of the country to the rest of the country.
You got to see it you got to feel it to tell the story. For your national audience that may check out this interview, people remember in the Edmonton Strathcona riding, Heather McPherson, the NDP incumbent there, now Linda Duncan, of course, a very popular NDP member of Parliament who was on an Orange Island forever. I was working for Global News at the time in 2015, that election night in May, and I was assigned alongside Fletcher Kent to cover that race at NDP headquarters. And to be honest with you, I've told this story many times and I've laughed so hard I've cried. I thought it was the short stick. I was actually choked. I was assigned to cover that. I had put out on my Twitter, how embarrassing, that my personal I even did a seat count prediction and everything, and boy did I get walloped predicting that Jim Prentice would, may he rest in peace, would lose a few seats, the PCs would take their lashing, and then they'd be back. And of course that was not the case, and what an assignment it was to cover that.
Absolutely,
I'll never forget that night at the Westin Hotel in downtown Edmonton. My point being, Linda Duncan was there as one of the only elected NDP members in Alberta's history, and boy, you could see it on her face that she sort of felt like that maybe they were, they had really for real made some inroads there. So it'll be interesting to see the journey that party undergoes in the next while.
Absolutely. I mean, it's we now when the political watchers in Ottawa start counting seats and what's certain for the NDP, you kind of are doing on two hands the number of seats you're sure they'll win.
Nobody's even sure Jagmeet's going to win his seat.
This is it. And then, of course, you have the NDP counter argument, which is that they have strong ground games in the places where they are strong. And I think that's a fair argument. Places like Edmonton, Strathcona, a couple ridings in Vancouver area, a couple in southwestern Ontario, and maybe one in Montreal, and a few others. In fairness to them, a couple in Winnipeg, but it's really they're going to face, I wouldn't say an existential crisis. I think that's overstating it, especially given their provincial strength in Western Canada. They're too solid a piece of the Canadian political landscape to just disappear. But they're going to be hard questions for sure, and especially if Jagmeet Singh can't win his own riding, that would be a killer blow for sure.
Conservative podcaster Tommy Temper is hanging out in our live chat today. He says the Poilievre rally was scheduled for Redmonton, but the venue was, and then you see here in all caps, not big enough.
I noticed
Tommy Temper.
I have to make a couple points in response to your very astute live chatters. One is they did change the location because the crowd, they needed a bigger space, and that's a fair point. And the other comment about the 180 of the Liberals is the fairest comment you can make.
Let's get into it.
I don't think we're fully appreciating how wild it is that the Liberal Party is actually succeeding at owning the change banner in this election. And it's because they just decided the carbon tax was not cool anymore. It was too divisive. And they wanted to have something very obviously visible to people, which is to say cheaper gas. I noticed it in Ontario. A lot of people across the country noticed it. And it's as if the carbon tax never existed. And the Liberals are, with many of the same, in fairness to a lot of conservative critics, many of the same cabinet ministers who are now campaigning on not a carbon tax, carbon price, carbon levy, whatever they're deciding to call it. Mark Carney doesn't mind even calling it a carbon tax. And we'll
call it whatever you want when you're dumping it.
Yeah, and I
can't tell you how many comments we got from conservatives that are so choked. They're like, he's just ripping and reading our policy. He's literally stealing it right out of our playbook.
I'd be pissed off if I were them, because it's capital gains as well. The capital gains inclusion rate changes. The
GST on new homes.
GST on new homes. Like go down the list, and the fact that the National Post in this campaign published plagiarism allegations related to Carney's doctoral thesis. Whatever you make of that story, and I think it's a fair story. I really do think they had the examples, but to tie that in to him essentially carbon copying a lot of the conservative platform, like, it is truly wild. And yet, at least to this point, 3 weeks into the campaign, hump week 3 of 5 before the debates, Carney is getting away with it, and we're calling him out as reporters and the media landscape more broadly. We are mentioning that this is happening, and yet I talk to people who aren't fully plugged into politics all the time, and now we're starting to tune in, and it's the Trump thing in a lot of cases. They're like, yeah, but this guy, we can trust him, Mark Carney. We can, he's the man for the moment, and I don't know if that can last 2 more weeks, but we'll see.
I can keep you for a few more minutes.
I'm around.
Because I want to dig into the plagiarism story. I don't think most people, to be honest with you, let me say something and then smoothly roll into some reads here.
Sure.
So because I don't think that most people care about that story at all, except for the absolute, and I'm talking maybe I'll save it for when I lay out my argument. We're talking to Nick Taylor-Vaisey right now. You can read his work and his team's work at politico.com. Just click on Canada, and you can find all the work that they've been doing there, including their wildly popular Ottawa Playbook. Make sure you subscribe to that. It's word and reports on the ground from the journalists that are covering this campaign, election 2025. We had a great conversation yesterday with the president of North Road Investment Council, Marshall McAllister, as we asked, are we headed toward the Great Recession? Marshall gave us some great insights onto what's been described as that manic Monday, that market mayhem. What's the right move for you? How are you supposed to wrap your mind around it? Well, as you might expect, Marshall kind of laid it out, said it depends on your circumstance. You can check that out. That's our most recent episode of Real Talk. That's April 8th. And, of course, you can find North Road Investment Council online at northroadic.com. That's a steady hand and a studied voice to guide you through wealth and investing. If your number one election issue right now is the economy, and in particular unemployment, if you're experiencing either unemployment or underemployment, you're a skilled worker, you've worked in sales, maybe you're an engineer and you'd love to work for a company that is blazing a trail in green energy in Canada, check out kuby.ca today. That's KUBY.ca. Solar by Kuby is hiring right now in all 4 of their locations, Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, and Kamloops, BC. You can check out the job postings by clicking on the career links. And, of course, you can always get a free solar quote. 2 Kuby customers are going to have $5,000 knocked off their solar purchase before June 20th, all part of Kuby's 10-year anniversary celebration. A big shout-out to the team at Solar by Kuby. And we're so proud to be partnering with the team at Complete Care Restoration. I'm going to be talking to you about Jasper in just a little bit. They've still got crews out there helping homes and businesses recover from that wildfire back in July. It's what they've been doing for more than a quarter century, restoring property and rebuilding peace of mind if disaster strikes, heaven forbid, in your neck of the woods. Make sure you remember the name Complete Care Restoration. Hanging out with Nick Taylor-Vaisey, Ottawa Bureau Chief for Politico. So here's the deal for people that weren't familiar with the story. Turns out that some of Mark Carney's critics, and they kind of dug this story up, say that like 30 years ago, it was his thesis, right, his dissertation at Oxford, that there were multiple instances of plagiarism. I've seen some people quipping, including some conservatives, saying, oh yeah, it obviously really precluded him from forging a strong career. Obviously, this is totally relevant, arguing that maybe it's not. But you think it is. How come?
Well, I think it's relevant and fair. I don't think it is an open and shut case of, I think the allegations of plagiarism, the examples that the National Post published, I think are fair comment. I also think it's possible in a 300 or whatever page thesis that he wrote, where he repeatedly cited several people, that if he didn't cite properly in a couple of instances, that doesn't mean he's therefore a fraud. Like, I think just because the story was published and just because it's fair also doesn't mean it's therefore he's a loser and he failed his way to the top. Like, it's hard to look at the 10 examples and not sort of say, well, yeah, okay, he obviously was a bit careless there or whatever. Like, it's a tough thing because there are zero tolerance policies all over the academic world for plagiarism, and fair enough, because that I understood when I was in university was a problem that needed to be rooted out. But I think that zero tolerance then, in a case of this massive thesis, leaves little room for mistakes.
So are you surprised the story didn't stick longer? I mean, I guess here we are talking about it, but really it sort of didn't make it through more than one news cycle.
I'm not surprised it didn't stick because Carney also had like a senior academic vouching for him, and I think basically arguing that part of the argument that I just made a little bit about, I mean, senior serious academics looked at this, like the thesis was published, it was approved, and it was because a thorough examination didn't produce serious concern. But I think that can be true, and you can look at those 10 examples the Post had and say, huh, interesting. It's just, it's complicated.
We took a look at some polling for CTV and the Globe yesterday. I think it was Nanos that did it, and shows that over the past few days, and obviously things change fast through an election campaign. You can see it there. Thanks, Johnny. The Liberals down to just under 43% support, ballot support, down about 3 points. That's a 3-day change. The Liberals at 38%, so we'll call it 5 points back. Up 3 points, though, over the past 3 days. That's positive momentum for Pierre Poilievre's team. What are you expecting to see? What do you think's behind that bump back? And do you think that they can sustain that? Are they on to something, the Conservatives?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because the Trump threat and the Trump scare and the talk of annexation and that truly core patriotism feel that so many Canadians had in the end of the Trudeau days and the early Carney days has dissipated a bit, and now it's clearly still an economic threat and a threat to retirement savings as the stock market goes up and down and up and down and up and down and mostly down. So the evolution of the Trump question may have some bearing here. It may also just be a little bit of a calming of that liberal wave in a smaller way to the sort of reordering of the liberal conservative, what would be a conservative blowout in the end of the Trudeau days. Like when Carney came along, that lead shrunk to almost nothing, and then the Liberals flipped it. So we could just be seeing a little bit of a double helix here, where they're ending where these two parties often end in recent years, which is pretty close together.
Really close together.
Yeah. But the thing for Poilievre and the Conservatives is that they don't just have to win the popular vote. They've got to win it convincingly. So being 4 points down means they're actually like 8 points away from a victory. And every Conservative campaigner in the country knows that, and they know that there's room to make up, especially in those seat-rich places we talk about. Vancouver, Toronto, and...
But we talk about them for good reason, because there's so many seats there. Because that's
elections,
where elections are won and lost.
That's right.
I know you've got a jam-packed schedule. You got to make the most of every minute you're spending in every single city, every single province. What's one other story you're keeping an eye on, and where are you off to next?
In Edmonton for a couple of days, and I'm hoping to visit some doors with someone from each party. So NDP, Liberal, Conservative, get a sense of what people are saying to each of them, because voters have different conversations with different candidates too, right? They may be a little more polite to somebody they're not going to vote for because that candidate went out of their way to come to their door. And so you want to kind of get a variety of voices and a variety of views. So I look forward to that before heading back to snowy Ottawa, which had snow this week. And I avoided.
Yeah, well, 'tis the season. I know it is beautiful in our neck of the woods right now.
Absolutely.
But just wait, you never know. Just wait. We're optimistic, but cautiously optimistic
Sure.
that maybe spring will be upon us. Just want to thank you for making time for us in studio. You and I, you've obviously been on the show several times, but to have you here in studio is pretty cool. And we've punched into our live chat. We'll put it in the show notes as well on the podcast and on YouTube, where people can subscribe to Politico's Ottawa Playbook. That's a daily look inside Canadian politics and power. It's free. It's an amazing resource. I'm proud to be contributing to it. A view from Alberta every Thursday through the campaign. And of course, you can check every Wednesday right up until Election Day. We'll have a team member from Politico. Today it's Nick talking to us from somewhere in the country. You guys are doing a great job with it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is a thrill to be here.
Yeah, man.
Love
cool
it.
to have you. Steal a coffee mug on your way out if you like. All right, Nick. Good to see you, man. That's Nick Taylor-Vaisey. Again, you can check out his and his team's work at Politico.com. Courtesy of our friends in Jasper, this is the time of year where we get to talk to you about one of the most special seasons in the national park, and that is, of course, spring in Jasper. It's all part of our presentation today that is MyJasper Memories, every Wednesday, proudly presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper. And, I asked the team at Tourism Jasper, Johnny, for permission to maybe get a little bit personal on this one. We thought we'd open the show with some personal thoughts, and I wanted to share some memories with you. So I went through my phone just over the last while, and I looked for spring Jasper memories that we've made, just to give you a sense of kind of what's happening out there right now and the options that lie in wait. Now, this first photo that we're showing you, I'm cheating a little bit because this one was closer to the end of February. I don't know if that technically qualifies as spring, but I remember, and I'll never forget this, jackets off and just going for an absolutely beautiful and memorable twirl on Pyramid Lake. This is me and Wyatt Rudy passing the puck around. And what I do remember about that day, it was just like you kind of knew the winter remnants were there. You still had the snow, you had the ice nice and thick. We took a horse like a sleigh ride, as a matter of fact, out there, and we'll never forget that moment. But the weather was so beautiful. The sun, you get these days when you're out in the mountains and it just feels like you're closer to the sun. You know what I mean? You can smell those trees out there, those smells of spring. Things are starting to emerge. Spending time at our favorite restaurants, and so many restaurateurs in Jasper right now are eager to welcome visitors back. This was a moment that we had at Evil Dave's, one of our favorite spots to be, and we also love going for pizza in Jasper, and they've got some absolutely
Who
epic
doesn't love a
spots
pie,
out there,
Ryan?
Johnny.
What is this?
You know what? I love this photo. This is like, I just absolutely love this one. So this was Wyatt Rudy, who's now 9. He was a little bit younger at this time, but he was doing some coloring. He was doing some coloring while we were waiting for our pizza, and he drew and designed this sign that says, "This is my favorite pizza, and I love you and my pizza. I am Wyatt." And they took that and they put it right up on the beverage fridge right there in the pizza place. And that was something that meant a lot to him. We'll pop back in there this spring, I think, and check to see if it's still there. But that's
It's like putting it up on the fridge.
Jasper Pizza Place. Nobody does it quite like them. Put it up on the fridge there, which was amazing. As well, Marmot Basin this time of year, the conditions that they've had, like, Nick was talking about, they're getting a bunch of snow in Ottawa. It was like, last week, I think it was absolutely dumping at Marmot Basin. And of course, you can always check out their website too, skimarmot.com, for up-to-the-minute snow reports, including, as we're speaking to you, fresh snow this morning and more in the forecast. But they've got great deals and warm weather out there. Spring skiing is here. We always like to get Wyatt into a lesson for like an hour so Kari and I can go shred a little bit ourselves and then come back and have some family time together. And of course, returning to the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge is always going to be guaranteed wonderful family time. This time of year for sure, still a little bit cool. You still want to be gathering around that big crackling fireplace, but also warm and sunny and beautiful enough to be eating outside.
That's the view I like right here.
Like I said, this is my favorite version of brunch. Look at the size of that burger. They don't mess around. They don't mess around at all. Food is a big part of the Jasper experience and our Jasper memories. And springtime in Jasper, let me tell you, truly is something special. So I want to put a couple of things on your radar. If you're feeling inspired by what we're showing you here, our family's memories, and you'd love to make some of your own, they've made it easy on their website. If you go to jasper.travel/spring, you can find more about some of the really unique reasons. You can see here the bear cubs that are out. This is the time of year where you're likely at a distance, at a safe distance, everybody, maybe going to get lucky enough to see new signs of life. The youngins, the little ones, could be elk, could be those beautiful bears that in the summer will be feeding themselves on the first cut at the Fairmont Jasper Park Golf Club. They're getting set to celebrate their 100th year, by the way. The trails are clearing of snow. There's a whole bunch of wonderful and unique cabins to rent. You can check out the accommodation link there. Tourism Jasper's made it nice and easy for you. Spring hiking. The campgrounds are going to open next month in May. And again, you can find out all the information by checking out jasper.travel/spring. I do want to give a quick shout out as well to our friends at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. They've got a deal where you can spring into summer and save up to 25%, which for a lot of people I know might be the impetus to get out to the JPL for the first time in a while. We'll put the link to that specifically in the show notes so you can capitalize on that opportunity, that offering. It's all part of the spring memories just waiting to be made out in Jasper. MyJasper Memories, presented weekly right here on Real Talk by our friends at Tourism Jasper. You and I are due for a trip to the mountains, buddy.
Just you and me holding hands.
Just you and me holding hands, crushing burgers, buddy. I love this. Vamp says, when I was young, I got to ride around Pyramid Lake in an old Chris Craft wooden boat. That sounds amazing. Greg's wondering, are there any new homes or businesses built in Jasper yet? It's been, we sure appreciate it. As a matter of fact, a lot of our, a significant part of our listening audience, our subscribers, I guess what we're saying is Real Talk's got a lot of friends in Jasper, and we love you guys. And I don't know if I say off the record, but just privately, they've been sending us notes and updates and just sort of taking us along for that ride and helping us understand what it's been like. And I want to give a shout out to like Wendy Hall is a good friend of the show. She's a counselor in Jasper. She sent us, remember I showed you the text, maybe it was like a month ago, and a big day for their family because the backhoe was finally there kind of clearing their site site, and they've just had their build started, and I know that those projects are coming along. Probably not as quickly as some folks would like it, but Jasper was lucky enough to get some temporary housing, like kind of those ATCO trailer looking things in. So some people can be there, because you've also got a lot of folks that, I mean, life goes on. They're still working. They're still doing their deal, especially contributing to the tourism economy, but maybe commuting in from Valemount or Hinton or wherever else it is that they've been able to find accommodations. So that rebuild continues. And obviously we feel like we're not just like partners with them. We feel like part of that family, and so we'll continue to keep you updated as that town rebuilds, just doing an unbelievable job.
Yeah, one of the cool things, well, I guess it's like a positive. There's no positives to what happened there, but one of the cool things I heard one of the Jasperites talking about is how you can see, obviously because trees have been removed in certain areas, but now that the wildlife is coming back, and there's new vegetation that is growing, and the wildlife is discovering. So you're actually getting a glimpse. You're getting better views in some areas of wildlife that was hidden by forest, that was hidden by trees before. So obviously it's sad that we've lost these forests, but for people going there now and going to support, and which is what they need our funds right now, go up there. You're kind of getting these windows into the forest they were talking about. I was listening to this program. I was like, oh my gosh, that must be so cool to see these areas where all this life has been, and now there's like little holes in the trees or the forest where you can see through and just see them living their life and coming and grazing on this new vegetation that is popping up in the spring. It's just really cool. We got to get out to the mountains. Jeez.
Yeah, we will. We'll figure something out. We got to go live from Jasper, find a way to get our maybe our real VIPs and our Patreon supporters out there, something like that.
Thank you to our subscribers and, of course, our members.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout-out as well. Super Chat Ken kicking $5 into the chat today. Ken, that's so generous of you. He just says, I'm thrilled your pup is okay. Us too, buddy. And I'll tell you what, typically, while that would go to stock our Real Talk beer fridge, I think maybe today that maybe I'll go get a bone for the girl. What do you think? Go get Monroe something to gnaw on. It'll probably taste. What do they say? It'll taste 15% better as she's here with the sun shining on her face. Kari and I you get a little bit whimsical when something like this happens. And I was saying to her, because she says Monroe is just so level-headed, this, our lab, we're talking about a dog, and the photos are, I know that for some people you were showing it, I'll describe it for the podcast, but you were showing the photos of her Kari had the presence of mind to take one image as best she could. It gives you a sense of how far back Kari was, how far back the trail was. They weren't walking along the riverbank. It gives you a sense of where Kari was up on the trail.
Oh yeah,
but it shows Monroe kind of perched there on the ice, and I know some of you had commented going, "Oh my gosh, that's a powerful photo." And you just sort of think of like where her head. I'm talking the dog. I'm talking Monroe, where her head was at through this. And as she would sort of maybe start to lose her grip or lose strength, and then she'd bust out and she'd go swim a quick circle and then come back and try again, and then go swim a quick circle and then come back and try again. And I said to Kari, do you think? And I know it's a bit of a kind of a stoner question here, but do you think Monroe knew that her life was threatened? Or do you think she just was like, she's a dog, she's in the water, she's a lab, she's just got to get out. She's got to find a way to get out. It's a minor inconvenience. I don't know the answer to it. I don't know the answer of whether or not Monroe actually recognized the gravity of the situation. If you're a human being and you're in that scenario like Chief was talking about, I couldn't believe the numbers. What did he say? 44 river rescues already this year, 12 this week, and many of them involving human beings. I think if you're a human in that circumstance, clinging to ice to try to stop being pulled underneath, you're recognizing that you are right now currently fighting for your life. And it obviously, I don't know, it just kind of really, really resonates.
Well, bottom line, she was okay. I love this picture after getting a nice warm up by the fireplace.
Sitting by the fireplace covered in blankets.
I tell you, there's nothing pups, cats, there's nothing household pets love more than a warm up by the fireplace.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's real or fake or whatever, it's just, they just love it. Right?
She might have done all of this just to get pampered. We're not sure.
Well, you said yesterday, and I thought it was funny because it may be true, is that she may have thought, unless, and I didn't hear Kari saying it, that she was screaming or crying. She may have thought that was an adventure yesterday. She may have had a good time. We don't know.
I don't know.
She could talk.
Tracy says on our live chat powered by Park Power, Tracy says her instincts would have definitely kicked in. Cactus Sheriff says labs are absolutely smart enough to know they're in danger. Says maybe she didn't know how bad it could have been, but she probably knew that it was bad for sure. Yeah. Anyway, we're grateful and for all your well wishes as well. We just honestly, that this wasn't like a, shine the spotlight on our family type moment. It was just like, if this conversation saves someone's life or saves a pet's life, if it saves even one, it's worth it. And I know that the team at Edmonton Fire Rescue is keen to get that message out as well. Just a couple of days ago, we chatted with the lead columnist for Canada's National Observer, Max Fawcett. And after that, the day after, we talked to Vicky Mochama, host of Party All the Time. And housing came up in both of those scenarios. We've been asking who has the best housing policy of the major parties in this election, in particular the Liberals and the Conservatives, but of course the NDP with an interesting proposal as well. More talking along the lines of rent controls and other options, other protections for lower income Canadians, obviously hardest hit by Canada's affordable housing crisis. And it prompted an email from Matt, which I really appreciated. Wanted to put that in front of Real Talkers today. The Liberal plan, basically, and I'm boiling this down to like one sentence, which is probably unfair to everybody, but the Liberals believe that there should be a federally funded national developer that can build high priority housing across the country quickly as possible.
And this worked years ago. Carney
They've done it before.
They did it right after
the 70s.
Yeah.
They did it after World War.
And it worked. And those houses are still here today.
Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives taking more of a conservative mindset to it, which is remove barriers to this type of thing, drop the costs on this type of thing, incentivize housing builds. And I think both have very strong and valid points. The question is, which is better? I'm a little bit more cynical around that national builder, around the government controlling everything. But heck, I've been off before for sure. And Matt maybe doesn't see eye to eye with what I laid out. He says, first and foremost, of course, he starts with a bouquet in typical Canadian fashion. Matt says, I want to thank you and the entire team at Real Talk for putting on the show every day of the week. Says it's no doubt a Herculean effort to produce something so well made and so engaging. Oh, Matt, he says, kudos to everybody, including those in the chat, that somehow can have 8 different conversations at a time and still follow the show. Johnny, we have no idea how folks do it. I have no idea how you do it, pal. Matt goes on to say, I made a comment about preferring a national developer for housing, and I added in the chat that I didn't think it was a good idea for a program to be a for-profit venture for private developers. He says, as a matter of fact, I made a bit of a snarky comment about such contracts going to Pierre's friends and his cronies or something. And obviously that may have been a bit of unnecessary spice. Look at this. He's just keeping it so classy in his email to us.
Spice?
Unnecessary spice, he says.
You can swear.
Yeah, he says, my problem isn't with those whose friends get the contracts. I'm old enough to know that that's how business works. He says, my concerns with private developers is that when you're beholden to shareholders and investors, we see time and time again where quality is sacrificed for profit and where houses are not built with affordability in mind whatsoever. The goal isn't to make as many affordable houses as possible. It's to sell each unit for as much profit as is feasible. How does that help Canadians get into homes, wonders Matt? Do we honestly think that by, quote, unleashing the private sector, but cutting down on pesky things like home inspections and building codes is going to result in cheaper homes? When has the private sector ever passed savings along to consumers? He says, I'm not going to hold my breath waiting for an example because it turns out you need oxygen to live. Maybe that's necessary spice
Truth,
from Matt.
Facts.
He says, now don't get me wrong. Profit is not a dirty word. He says developers should see return on their investment. But right now, when the goal is supposed to be mass affordable housing, I just don't believe they can get it done without falling into the same practices that they always have, that will not serve the interests of Canadians, only corporations' equity accounts. It's not like we would bar private developers from building houses, but instead we may introduce competition into the market from a national developer. That makes me cringe. I don't love government. I grew up, I told you, my grandpa Rudy, proud Chevron engineer, taught me that Petro-Canada stood for Pierre Elliott Trudeau rips off Canada. We drove past Petro-Canada to say he didn't believe that.
I've never heard that. That is amazing.
It's amazing. My grandpa had all kinds of ones. Ford fixed or repaired daily.
Zinger.
Yeah, my grandpa was, oh man, he was a gem. But introduce competition, he says, from a national developer. Competition is only a good thing for the consumer, right? Asks Matt. He says, but maybe I'm out to lunch. I'm pretty sure that plenty of people will think so, but we've let private developers hold the reins for a long time now, and I don't think it's working out for everybody. He says, I love the show, even if my blood pressure spikes from time to time. Hell, maybe that's why.
Of
I love
course.
it. Matt says, keep on keeping it real. That from Matt in Edmonton. Thanks, pal.
I'm glad you said that, Matt, because we don't want to, trigger everyone and give you anxiety, but it's nice to get the blood pressure up and then bring it back down. I'll bring this back to something you were just talking about today and yesterday. Why don't we adopt a little of both? Why doesn't the government help? Why don't corporations help? I like if we need as many homes as Vicky was talking about on Party All the Time and other experts are talking about, some people are saying we need 4, some people are putting it as high as 10 or 12 million homes. I mean, we need everyone. So why don't we use both? Why don't we let corporations do it? Why don't we let the government help? Why don't we come up with every possible outlet we can to build homes as fast as we can and let some people into the country who are skilled laborers to do that through vetted, proper immigration. Like, I just think we need to do it all. If you want to play, we have that clip of, because also and I see people in the chat, I see people online talking about, Brookfield this and Carney and Brookfield this. I don't give a shit who it is. Hire Brookfield, hire everyone you can. Hire 3, 4, 5, 6 different companies. And if you think Pierre isn't tied to, if you think he's going to build homes and not, shake hands with corporations as well to do it, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. And Martin talked about that. We have the highlight.
We're talking. Do we have it? You want to?
Let's do it.
It's about a 2-minute story.
But because people always mention Carney, they never mention PP.
Well, this is kind of. I think this is interesting. So if you go to our Real Talk YouTube channel, we just so appreciate everybody that subscribes there. It's obviously free. You can check it out. But I'm just scrolling down. You can watch our full episodes. You can check out our shorts. The most recent one on Preston Manning, one that I think you should check out. But then that's where you'll find as well Party All the Time, hosted by Vicky Mochama. You can see her full episode, her most recent one, LOL, What's a Mortgage? And I think she did a great job with that. But Johnny, you put together a highlight. This is Martin Lukacs. He's the author of a book called The Poilievre Project. The highlight, you called it Pierre Poilievre and the Billionaire Class. Kind of an interesting play on words. Everybody's talking about Mark Carney. Mark Carney, the banker. Mark Carney helping his billionaire friends. But it turns out that obviously Pierre Poilievre has friends in high places too. You're not going to be prime minister if you don't. So let's gather around, everybody, for story time with Martin Lukacs.
I have a bit of a harsher view of Poilievre's policies when it comes to housing.
So Martin is going to talk to us about a story
and renters.
Okay, here we go.
I had to get
so
the
we're ready to
audio
rock?
going. Yeah,
all right,
go.
so here we go. Here's Martin Lukacs.
I have a bit of a harsher view of Poilievre's policies when it comes to housing. I don't think they're going to do anything to support renters. Before that housing hell video, there was another video that Poilievre put out in the summer of 2023 that I found very revealing. Part of his blitz of visits to shop floors around the country, and he's in this construction shop in Alberta, and a guy in a high-vis working shirt raises his hand and says, "Look, my rent doubled from $750 to $1,300 this year." That's basically one whole paycheck of mine. What about putting something in for landlords so that they can't jack up the rent that much? And Poilievre, he goes on this long rambling speech about how, it's because the Liberals are spending too much, or there's too much bureaucracy and there's not enough competition and there's not enough places to put people. And that to me was fascinating because there's a very simple answer that he could have given, which is rent control. And in Alberta, there's no rent control. So people can jack up the rent as much as they want. Federal governments in the past have imposed rent freezes. In fact, the great boogeyman of Alberta and Poilievre, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin's dad, put in a rent freeze in the 70s for several years, had a trickle-down effect towards having rent control in many other provinces afterward. The people that Poilievre is looking out to support are, again, the corporate developers and landlords in this country. In my book, I report on this fundraising event that was held for Poilievre by the country's richest corporate landlord, Peter Gilgan, multi-billionaire, holds a party for Poilievre and 100 of his high earner friends in the 44th floor of the Four Seasons Hotel in Toronto. The champagne's flowing. The reason people like this are supporting and fundraising for Poilievre, his policies would lead to an absolute bonanza of profits for these guys. Those zoning changes that they want the municipalities to make. But if you're looking at the kind of changes that would happen, they would immediately have huge profitable impacts for these landowners.
So there you go. I mean, I'm not stupid to think that anyone who gets elected is going to have to shake some hands and make deals. It's like during COVID, everyone was was ragging on big pharma. But who the fuck do you think is going to make 10 billion COVID vaccines? We need big corporations to do it. No, what are you going to get a little guy in a lab to supply the world with COVID vaccines? It's the same thing with this housing right now. There's a housing crisis in Canada. There's also one going on in the States. I don't know who you think that the new prime minister is going to have to shake hands with other than corporations and possibly the government and possibly, like, let's get everyone working. Let's get all hands on deck, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let us know what you think to talk at RyanJesperson.com. It feels like a proper fit for the flamethrower.
Yeah.
Presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Every Friday we wrap up our week with some of your hottest takes, and that includes some of them we received yesterday. Some of you, I know, you put together really great emails, and you're wondering why you're not hearing them on this episode. I'm saving them for Friday. I'm saving them for the flamethrower, presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. You did get this one from Sheila. Sheila writing in to talk at RyanJesperson.com. She says, I just wanted to clarify for you, Jespo. She did say, everybody starts off so politely, which she says, Ryan, I really enjoy the show. Thanks, Sheila. She says, I wanted to clarify for you, the carbon tax rebate payment in April has always been done the same as this year. She says, it's not a Liberal election ploy. She says, that's just the media spin. And then she gives me the eyes rolling emoji. That from Sheila, Real Talker Sheila. For sure, this is the story that we chatted about where the carbon tax rebate, the Canada, what do they call it? The Canada carbon rebate, I think it's called.
So many names now. It's hard to...
Well, the Liberals finally got, I mean, it doesn't matter, too little too late. Now we're just talking about
call
this.
It carbon money.
We talk about it in a historical context. But remember, the biggest problem around the carbon tax probably, well, one of them, depending on who you talk to, aside from the cost for a lot of people, was the messaging. The communication around it wasn't great. And so people didn't realize what these rebates were that they were getting. People didn't realize if you didn't file your taxes, you didn't get the rebates, that sort of a thing. Mm-hmm. And despite the fact that the carbon tax has been, quote unquote, canceled by Mark Carney, the rebates will still go out in April if you filed your taxes before the 2nd of April.
Okay, so
you're going to get your rebate before the election.
Yeah.
And so we were just pointing out, and I chatted about this with Vicky Mochama. I think it was our most recent episode. It was. So you can check that out for more detail. This is what prompted Sheila's email. These payments are going out despite the fact that the carbon tax has been canceled. And it may be that this is the way it should be technically. But political scientists and those that sort of involved in ethical ruminations involving political policy and, more importantly, public funds are suggesting that this really doesn't serve. It's going to cost Canadian taxpayers to pay this out, and it's obviously going to do a favor for the Liberals a few days before the election. Like, obviously, in so many ways, as if you're living in Alberta and Danielle Smith shuttled a few $100 into everybody's bank account before a provincial election. It would be the exact same thing, and people would cry foul. So, Sheila, you're absolutely 100% that the carbon rebate payment has always been in April. You're 100% right, and you're 100% right that this is just the same as prior years, but it is an election year. The candidate, the leader of the Liberals, has canceled, so to speak, the carbon tax, and so it's a questionable situation.
Yeah.
But maybe a bit of a gray area. Maybe it's not black and white.
It is gray, and I think you're still getting them. Like, I mean, just for me, and I'm not going to open too big of a window. I don't want to with taxes. I love you, CRA. You're my best friend. But I'm
very proud of you for filing on time, John.
We did file on time this year, and not with mine, but with my partner's, Jatinder. It literally said, you're getting the carbon rebate, and here are the 4 dates coming up in the future. So she's getting 4 checks, quarterly coming up. And they were like, here's the date, here's the date, here's the date. And I'm like, wow, that's news to me because I thought we don't get these anymore. But that is for 2024, right? So yeah, it is this gray area where, like, how long is this going to go? And when is the cutoff? And yeah.
Yeah. Super Chat Ken says both are election cookies, but at least I'm actually getting the carbon rebate, unlike Danielle Smith promising a tax break that she delayed for 2 years. Fair enough. Anubis, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says the carbon tax was canceled. We still have a payment to issue. Why is that an issue? And maybe it's not an issue, but sometimes things aren't actual issues, but they're optical issues. Maybe this doesn't make it through a news cycle. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe this is another example of like the Mark Carney plagiarism story that maybe like Nick just said to us a while ago, is a story, but also kind of isn't a story. More than anything, we want to know what you think about this, and you can let us know anytime. Of course, leave a comment on our YouTube episodes, or you can send us an email. I'm actually wanted to remind Real Talkers, Johnny, that when it comes to the flamethrower and even positive reflections as well, we're not relying solely on emails anymore. We're also pulling some from YouTube comments. So I do have a flamethrower a submission that'll be going out on Friday, and it's a really great comment that somebody left. It's a fiery comment for sure. We love them.
Yeah.
On one of our YouTube episodes. So when you leave a comment there, we try to read all of them. A few of our episodes, I think, had like a couple 100,000 comments. A couple of them really exploded, so we can't respond to every one of those. But on a normal day,
I mean,
on a regular episode, we try to respond.
We're trying to pull these comments from everywhere, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or LinkedIn or any of the other places we are. But we're also, for YouTube, we're also, like, if you're a member, we're looking to those comments first, which is great because now it's just like a little flag they have beside their name.
Yep.
So priority reply to those comments and or read them on the flamethrower, and be a member today. YouTube page right next to the subscribe button is a join button. Hit that and become a Real Deal member. You might see Ryan messing up the the intro.
Did you
to
post
something.
it?
I didn't yet, but we're gonna give. I just mentioned today because somebody was asking about member only videos. I said we're actually getting ready to send out a couple bloopers of Ryan, which are
You're not even showing them. You're not. I mean, I guess I'm the source of the bloopers.
Yeah,
So, but
yeah.
I'm not going to see it.
Just some funny behind the scenes stuff that you know some members will get access to
just for
this
fun.
week.
If you're a Real Deal or Real VIP YouTube member, or if you're a Patreon supporter, you've got
Thank you to our
access to
patrons
that.
as well.
Huge thank you to you guys. You've got access to that Discord chat, which is basically a 24-hour-a-day chat that continues. One of our ways of saying thank you very much. Matt, one of our YouTube members, I see him right now, says, no, it's Steph says, no, Jespo, it's definitely a noteworthy story. The rebate, it says it's just shady timing. And Ms. KD, another member, thanks, Ms. KD, says, and she's correct, says even if you don't file by April 2nd, your taxes, you still get the rebate. You just won't get it on the 22nd of April. 100% correct as well, which is good news for people like me that are absolutely never filing their returns a month early. I don't know how you guys do it.
Did I do it a month? I thought.
Listen to April. Don't listen to me. I thought it was April 30th.
I just always have a reminder in my calendar around March 31st, like get your fucking taxes done.
April 30th, 2025.
But I like to have it in a bit early because then it takes a week to assess. Like, you know, I have my private, sole proprietorship. Ours takes, like, it's not like when you file with TurboTax or whatever you guys use, or your, and then 2 days later, it's like your taxes are done. For us, it takes a week or two. So
okay, so I'm just looking here, and I don't want to give any Real Talker the wrong
What is the
information.
actual
Well,
deadline?
can you imagine if I cost somebody money? So number one, don't listen to me. Listen to somebody else that knows what they're talking about. But I'm just looking at Canada.ca. I'm looking at the CRA's resources online, the key dates and deadlines for 2025. You can start filing your return. We're looking back into history now. February 24th, it opened up to file your 2024 return online.
Oh, look at that.
April 30th is the deadline for most individuals to file their return and pay any taxes owed. And June 15th is the deadline to file your return if you or your spouse or common law partner are self-employed.
And that's
which
me.
means and that's me.
But that is a gray area because we're also not, like, I'm also not self-employed. So I'm just going to go with the April 30th. I'm actually just going to file around the end of March every year and just be safe from now on.
Yeah. Look at you getting ahead of things and being proactive. John, I'm proud of you.
I'm not going to say, don't pat me on the back. It's my partner being like, get those fucking taxes done.
Well, because why every single year do
we always wait?
We pay the fee. We pay the penalties.
Always.
We pay why?
Because we're men and we're dumb.
Well, we're procrastinators. I don't know who it was earlier in the chat. I saw one of you, as we were telling the story of Monroe and her river survival story. One of you said, men and dogs both have selective hearing. And I thought, you know what?
Totally.
Fair play. I thought that was fair play. Before we go, we've been shining a light on our friends at UCAN Youth Services. And, the month of March was really incredible. They had those comedy nights, and so many of you Real Talkers showed up to support UCAN Youth Services. And I know that put their programs on your radar. If you check out ucan.ca, you can learn more. But, of course, their advocacy and the work that they're doing goes around the clock and around the year, and that includes their relentless outreach. This is, I don't know if I need to rank it, but I'm going to say the most important thing they do. They're working with the top 50 12 to 17-year-olds most known to police. This is not a positive list. This is not like the, Edify's top 40 under 40. The top 50 12 to 17-year-olds known to Edmonton police. These are young kids that in some circumstances are being recruited into gangs, are susceptible or vulnerable to human trafficking. There's drug use at play. There are deficits in nutrition and housing and certainly financial and family resources. The relentless outreach workers address school factors, employment factors when relevant, family and peer group factors, and more. They aim to reduce the incidence of disruption and crime by youth, moving them toward employment or education. That obviously means a better and safer society for everybody, but in particular, these young people that deserve a shot at a positive and productive reality. UCAN is partnering with the government of Alberta, the Edmonton Police Service, and Reach Edmonton to make this happen, but also they accept donations that oftentimes are providing critical resources like those food security. I mean, they like making lunch for kids, creating a kitchen where kids can come in and grab a sandwich at UCAN HQ on 111th Street in Edmonton. If you're feeling compelled by what I'm talking about, or maybe you interacted with UCAN Youth Services as a young person, now as an adult you'd like to say thank you, you can learn more about their programs, connect with them, maybe talk about a corporate partnership, or even make a donation today at ucan.ca.
You can do it!
You can do it! Hey, you saw the Happy Gilmore 2? They got the release date?
I can't wait, but I'm also like scared because it was like when they brought back Mad Max. Like I loved Mad Max when I was a kid.
Oh no!
Yeah, and then I was like, Mel Gibson let us all down. But I used to love Mad Max, and then I was like, oh my God, they're redoing it. But then it was amazing. So like, I know it's a Happy Gilmore production, so it'll be good. Like it's an Adam Sandler produced film.
I know what you're saying.
But you don't want to be let down by it, right? When they bring back this stuff.
Well, it's a bit of a different approach this time around because they've got like all the world's top golfers participating in it.
So
Whereas
it's
the
obviously
original,
going to be star-studded.
Yeah,
right?
like Shooter McGavin will still be there, and they've got all the classics. Maybe not Bob Barker, obviously, rest in peace, but. Wait, Bob Barker's dead, right? Is Bob Barker dead?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. No, he's definitely. He passed away August 26th of 2023 at 99 years of age.
Betty White too. 99.
What a run! What a run! So you won't have.
Lost.
They'll probably find some way to integrate Bob Barker into the film, I would think.
in
But they've
memoriam.
got I think they've got like all the big guys. Scotty Scheffler, I had posted something about he was there. Bryson DeChambeau's in it. Probably the most popular golfer on planet Earth right now, to say the least. So yeah, looking forward to that coming up in July. In the meantime, here on Real Talk, want to let you know that coming up on our next episode of the show, that's going to be the 10th of April, regardless of whether you're a city slicker or maybe you're living in one of the most remote rural areas on planet Earth. We think that this episode is going to resonate with you because we've got one of the most definitive and most prominent voices in agriculture in the country joining us, SiriusXM and podcast host Sean Haney of Real Agriculture. We're going to sink our teeth into it. We hope you'll join us.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Kari Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Duvedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjasperson.com.